다들 주변일이야 티니바 야다 고급 정보에 드린 주산에 뒤주되던 답변체 아니 아주 대예배지 히말라야에 주유리예배지 빈다서다 아니 미세지 빈다서야 도제지학 고급 상부 정보들이야 가보시라죠 양 상마 다 망부지 지 초. 망부지는 양수가라 교지대 배우지 인주산에 가보시라죠 양소라 도시쇼잉.
I'm very happy to be back in Germany for the second time together with this opportunity to have the excellent opportunity to meet together once again with my brothers and sisters from the Himalayan regions, and especially with my brothers and sisters who are Tibetan. And I know that you've all come here from various places, not just Germany, but from all over, and have put in a lot of hard effort to come here. So thank you for being here, and thank you for having me.
나 지게 계급 대수랴 저의 거리야 대변은 지게 계급 조사나다 지게 계급 니마다 로토요
라오
나 되게 뉴산 제디 드린주다 아메리카리아 침브제 아메리카를 저의 거리냐 아메리카의 서유가리에 뷰리 초바대서 그냥들 가르자바차다 엔 뷰리 토제차 지 다는 히말라야 아주지 초바대서다 히말라야 그지 빈다서 토제차데 아나 개심스데 드린 주산에 아니 아주 그 토제차들 때제 광수이네야 아니 가보용돼야지다 나랑 이비네야 가서다지 나랑 그 랭게 첨부르지 조수 사바로 되지기 섬리야 pobre도 스키도 드린 주산에 다리 저민들의 여백가리야 미세게 다 가져에 다리들 니마 시진이야 들어야 다지 계절 시야 프로그램이 디컵이야 간수 주심지 대표브레 안드니도 간다 양결 다 가버 중스 간수 샤이
Lasso? I always look forward to the opportunity to meet with my Tibetan brothers and sisters and my brothers and sisters from the Himalayan regions, no matter where I go. So far in my life, I've only been given the opportunity to visit 2 foreign countries, the United States and Germany. So this applies in all my travels. And in the United States, of course, I've had the opportunity to visit several different regions, and in each of these regions, I've had the opportunity to meet with various Tibetan people's associations and meet with various gatherings of Tibetan people. And I've also met with different Himalayan people's associations and different gatherings of Himalayan peoples more broadly. And whenever this happens, I always feel happy about it, and I feel that I've really accomplished an important responsibility. So I feel this way because being able to meet with Tibetan people and Himalayan peoples when I'm traveling is, I hope, of benefit to them. I hope it's something that lifts their spirits a little bit, and it's something that is really satisfying to me as well, to be able to serve in this way. And here in Germany, during this short 4-day program, you have all put in effort to be able to come here and be here for the program and the teachings. And in addition to that, we have this opportunity this evening to be here together, and I'm very happy about this. Thank you.
다 미세 가르쳐다. 오, small headache. 다 두나 찍질이야. 오늘 별이 가르쳐요. और धरी दे जमीन ले आयों इन दी शोर तांबो छे छेबिन जमीन ले आयों से इन दी जे लिया पेरेंट्स लिया क्यूस जिन ड्राज पेरिस लिया क्यूस ड्राज छेबे ने कोदे छेबिन पेरिस लिया प्यूरी काशे यां दिस 강해를 비해야 돼 근데 고송 드린주 대주지 क्यूस 도도나 삼버지 아다 क्यूस 마 디자자 program 마부시다요 만 choose 도토나 삼을 tenso 다 이내 디스 가주에 마주 시계는 로쇼아 초진디 데즈 레라볼 마도지 디 딜레이드 차지 디즈 아주 디즈 디 가주에 제답 마데버지 아다 딘디 총송 다 간다냐 이게 그냥 상물로야지 이제 강에 지게로 말래네 맛이 당분 아주 야간에 유지서 지게로 말자야 암자도 체 excited 싶지 지게로 말래서 내라면도 네 마음이 고서 아는 나 제가 나라 imagination 제 그냥 주진 이반는신 미규만 이반는신 imagination 제 something 두산데 내라버지면도 대깔라 하버지래샤 안드레 인두산에 당분에 exciting 싶지는 신지 내라버지 요만도 상으로 강에 태대버지 내다르지 라바 디산 유럽리아 갭지 강에 쉽지 쇼치뭐 쉽지 태대가래 디균zel라 때네 양조라 강에 태버지 바제 용대를 섬통이
라서 Part of the original plan for my visit to Europe this summer included a visit to Paris. And I had particularly hoped that that visit could then include a chance for me to meet for a brief time with the members of the Tibetan community there, because I've heard updates about their situation, and I've heard that some of them are facing particularly difficult times these days and difficult challenges. So I had really hoped to meet with them as part of my visit there, but as it happened, it seems that I'm still encountering difficulties with regard to gaining permission to visit various countries. So that was an inconvenience that was introduced to the planning of this visit, and I wasn't able to go to Paris. But more broadly speaking, with regard to the experience of Tibetan people who go to live in foreign countries outside of India, Nepal, and Tibet, it seems that they start off with a lot of anxiousness and hope and excitement that they're going to live in a foreign country. But then after they land and get settled and live their new life there, they find that it's not so easy at all, and that it doesn't quite match the initial excitement that they had about making this move. And I think I really understand this. I try to put myself in your shoes and imagine that I am just like you, an ordinary Tibetan person moving to a new foreign country. And I can really see that it would be a very difficult move, a challenging situation, and one that doesn't really match in many ways the initial excitement of making that move. And in addition to that, these days there's, of course, as we know, the migration crisis in Europe, and I think that that crisis creates a certain climate in the air, so to speak, that makes things even more difficult for Tibetans, that adds an extra challenge to the situation that they face.
And then 다 간다량 가져다 아주 capture야 droga 내다는데 다지 못휘는지 표현을 capture 등업중을 굴러는 거 주제 못휘는 다지 다 딩산티스 뇽으로 줘야래 데 이내야 다 간다를 업중을 굴러는 전에 규마체비체 에 표현은 지 표바 capture 용게 규마체비체는 용브래 다디 용과게 지 시제기 내든지 가르쳐 되어서나 소수기 별이야 대비는 지 다주 쉐다 리숑당 다나 신기 지 소수 별이지인바 지금에네 별이지인베 다 랭겐드 주발라 강에 되버지다 라와 차장에 되버지 든지기 균산을 되네 변이주 주주 용비네 균산을 조디 차려 제가 디 균산 되는 디기 자외기 아주다 aspirations and 야가야 잡주 용과기 자외 린둔저보다 안다나지 시제기 군론도 가리면데 아주 맞아부터 제거하되 계속 시작해.
So these days, there's certainly still a flow of Tibetan people leaving Tibet as refugees. Maybe the annual numbers have decreased somewhat in recent years, but there's still undeniably a stream of Tibetan people leaving Tibet continuously. And it seems that whether they go as refugees to India or other countries in the world, the root motivation or the root reason for their having to leave Tibet is the same in every case. It's because in Tibet they feel that they don't have the proper opportunity to sustain their own unique culture, language, and responsibilities as a Tibetan person. Their duties to their own Tibetan people. They don't have the full freedom to do that. And for that reason, they leave Tibet and enter a life of being a refugee. And so I think that no matter where we find ourselves in the world as Tibetan refugees, it's very important for us to remember this root motivation, or this main reason for which we are refugees, is so that we can have more freedom to preserve and protect and promote the Tibetan culture and our unique responsibilities to our own people.
안지 소소의 최대 리숑의 장배 다 닝도 대 띵사부에 되버디 대랑 아주 럽종 샤과데 개침부지다 아주기 원에 임비냐 안에디 가수에 군주기 다 가수에 내당당 아니 고주기 저와 가리임베디 다 남이야 잼 님버지
라서
제삼창
겜바든 미겜바 미겜바 기내당당 미겜바
마르티기 제야면
라서
general
라서
Tibetan them
라서 라서
maybe you tell then maybe
Okay. Tani Quran sogi tani nedang jaya namyang jaya yomare.
오늘 ngachu ku준다
Ini Quran so sure.
Quran susana Tibetan
Tibetans in Tibet. Okay, yes. Indo chambo yo lao laso.
okay
Yes, okay.
you got it
100%. There will be no mistakes in the following translation. So His Holiness said that one of the important things that we need to remember is our brothers and sisters in Tibet who are still living in Tibet and are still endeavoring to preserve the Tibetan culture and protect the Tibetan culture and language. They have great resolve, they have great determination. They're very inspired about this endeavor, and that's something that we can all look up to and gain inspiration from. That's something that we should never forget. So we should remember the perseverance and the resolve of our Tibetan brothers and sisters in Tibet and how much they want to preserve the Tibetan culture and language and so forth, and remember their situation in Tibet as well.
Leadership uti nanye taji konsikyangwe chum chog uti lamde nambata anda na singi di walia yebeji la chen na ba sore da na singi pimi laksam jen chamegi taji jigro jigi chebel dene jigi tol jigi roba jigi chebel denje ane yonde ya ji da 초 신다지는 균세 니버데 가르라서나 별이 예대베지 시류 가지미망 고주기 닝도당 고주기 따지 지금 별 미리를 잡을 제와당 따디 주 니벌 된체 아주 무투이니지 베베다 가셔야지 베베 된다도 무투이니지 뒤ton다 심쇼 마샤가지 아주 상물을 무투인다다 롱업주rin리야 네트워크를 충분해. 드니 디균센데네 아주기 다 공도 쉬베기. 지 우티 남대난게 저기 거딘다 권한주기 아주리아 나베지 심쇼데 아주 재미있는 버릇이. 다나 신기 실리 예배지 실루 가세미마 권한주이네야 내당 깔라카부르지 나는 예비네야. 아주레 라버지 아주 라와나 루베나 예베 라버지 고저 심쇼다 라섬도 쉬어 인두산 대이네 아주르다 뽑으려 쉬진도 예베 인두 대한 제만이 붙이셔.
Listen. It's been quite a long time now since we Tibetans have left Tibet and become refugees. But during this whole time, we haven't lost our spirit and we haven't lost our motivation. And I think this is mainly due to two things. The first is the excellent leadership we have. And of course, our main leader who's providing such skillful and kind leadership is His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Through his leadership and skillful guidance, as well as through the kind guidance that's been provided to us by other great lamas and other skillful leaders, the Tibetan people have been able to remain unified under that guidance. So this guidance has been a great unifying force for the Tibetan people. And then the other main condition that keeps us motivated is remembering our own brothers and sisters in Tibet, the vast population of Tibetans in Tibet itself. They're in a very difficult situation in many cases, but their perseverance and dedication and strength of heart is even greater than ours, even greater than that of us Tibetans who live outside of Tibet in terms of their desire to preserve and exert energy into the Tibetan culture, language, and so on. So their perseverance and dedication in the face of some difficult circumstances is also something that we never forget and something that continues to inspire us. So even though it's been so many years, over 50 years now, since Tibetans have become refugees, we still maintain our strength of spirit because of these conditions.
That 여러 개가 망부체 이내사 개가 망부 상으로 냠도다 지 가서 티리 예배체다 가서 인사 지 토다 배바서 가서 인사 토시야래 That Hindustan, and that need so family so cherry, Kimsan so you have Hindustan. That counts to catch you the pebble and sa true score. That's not true, the cinema scenery, and you can't say to score. And that's not true, the Zizi Gavina. Sa true, the Galahaward. As to Tadaji, the Tibetan autonomy regions, that Peranjon Jones, T. Nalo Yebe Puritu, Tanga. Jigab, Dene, Chongren, Gansu, Dana Singi, Sijuan, Tijugi, what Yebe, Puritu, Tanga Jizi. Ah, Taduji, that sounds that kind of very of the sound of Zi. Tadaji Ganagi. Daji Ngawal, you have a summer with that giddy sound of Jitsi. That the net, Chigelia, you have the sound of Zena. Million two, the desire to the Kalahabo singing a shadow. Taganda, Purity, Tonumi Chadi. Jada Gan to the family, the Purigi, Kimsan Chiginea, that Jintang Shindu Chavachi. That Ganzo. Pemiri Chabina, Rintan Teveki, that's your family. The energy Kajuradaji. Da Dingjo Chambers and Antomindo Dakandaji, Azuza Chimbuchi, that's your family to Chadi. The Indus are Dikun Zendene, Council, Kimsan Digi, that's Chi gave up Nalola, Yawachi, Sade, Chimsan Yawachi Sutuajela. Kimsana Buddhist Limbina, Lojon Yawachi Tuyati, and Danaji Lob Kimzangi Kimisolina, Lega Yawachi Tuyati. That di Azureta Kashue Munduis and Andando. That Monam gathered Madame Son of Yaske Omar, and the Kachum Shuji chatting on some.
Lessa? There really aren't a lot of Tibetans in the world. The traditional figure that is cited is 6 million Tibetans worldwide. But if we really analyze that figure in more detail, piece by piece, then I think it's really difficult to come up with a genuine total of 6 million. If you count all of the Tibetans in the Tibetan Autonomous Region as one group, and then all of the Tibetans in the traditionally Tibetan areas of China that aren't part of the Tibetan Autonomous Region as another group, and you put that all together, together with all of the Tibetans living in other countries of the world, I think you're probably still not quite going to make it up to 6 million. So in any case, whatever the true figure is, Tibetans are truly an ethnic minority. They are a group of people of which there are few members. And therefore, with this regard to the situation of Tibetans living in Europe, many Tibetan peoples are kind of scattered all over Europe in small groups, not necessarily all staying in the same place. So you have different individuals living in different places, different families living in different places. And when we are apart from each other in this way, just family by family by family living in these various different places, I think it's important for us to remember the inherent value that we have simply as being Tibetan people. Every Tibetan family is priceless. So even though it's just one family living by themselves as Tibetans in a certain area of Europe, from the perspective of being Tibetan people, that's a priceless family. That's a very highly valuable family. And I think that it's important for us to remember the great value of simply being Tibetan as an individual and as a family. And keeping that value in mind, trying to take good care of ourselves so that our family is given good conditions, is raised well, that the children of the family are taught well, the members of the family can hopefully obtain good employment and so on. So in some ways, I'm saying this as an aspiration from my side. There's nothing that I can do in an immediate way to improve these points. But in terms of offering encouragement, I would just say that it's good to remember our inherent great value as Tibetan people and as Tibetan families, and to take good care of ourselves.
미리 소소 미리 지게 미리 신다지 안지 누저 계급지나라 차로 전주산에 다 디쿠유 디나로래 소소 최대 리중 성교 지사도 갈라 가버도 봐 제가 tin상 native minorities 가시에게 가르쳐 올렸으나 다지 베데 티즈에 가서 베데 다 초아베 가서 미리시란 잡아 맞아 좀 미리시란 잡아 맞아 소소기 다가도 수르도 초아겐 소소지 리중성 겹치하나 소소기 엔다 traditional 성겹치하다 지가 알아 다 이네티 타지도디 탑시디 야쇼레스나 까라하오래 미가시에 드리체도 유지래데 민사메 드리체도 말 미 룸바고교지 대지다 드리체도 말 제가 최대 리중 성교 차사디 딱 유럽 사번 디나로래야 소수마지 냠도 송제첸 소수 최대 리중디 유럽 사번 디나로 무튜니 디 value of the 린타라버디 네 대토버지당 안디기 가르에 간다 디니 송제 제약 탑름 체제 진리지가 토안에 아니 저불이 미신다다 냠도 라냠 그 토안에 안지 초아게 토야래 제 아주 배주시하디 저들이 좀 송교 제약 탑름르지 다 상슈세는 다도 다간다 탑름 직전에 다 상슈세 직전에 탑름 대직불리면 대 상슈다 년슈 기저야 말아봐다 다들이 이제들이 인사를 드린 주산에 다 드리지기 아주 삼동과디 계십니다.
So we talk a lot about, and certainly I have just mentioned, the importance of preserving our unique Tibetan culture, language, and heritage. But really, as I think all of us know, that's not such an easy thing to do in this modern age. And I think, as you all know, it's not such an easy thing to do in the environment that you currently live in. So the question becomes how to skillfully preserve our Tibetan culture and language in this situation. Other ethnic minorities, such as some native groups throughout the world, have taken the approach that the best way to preserve their culture and language is to live apart from the rest of society, to try to obtain some type of sovereignty of their own, where they can have their own land, their own governing system, and try to preserve their culture in a way in which they're isolated or separate from the rest of the larger society. And I think it might be one way to approach it, but I'm really not so sure that that's the best way to preserve a unique culture and language. Maybe some people are capable of doing it that way, some other people aren't going to be capable of doing it that way. So, in my opinion, the best way to approach it is to acknowledge that we're living in the 21st century, that we're living in these various different countries, and that there's these various modern situations and conditions that surround us, so that we should try to preserve our culture and identity in a way that goes together with the century that we live in and goes together with the environment that we're surrounded by. To not struggle against this modern time and not struggle against the environment that we're in and see it as something completely separate, but be Tibetan, preserve Tibetan culture, at the same time be a participant in modern society, be a participant in the broader societies that we live in. I think that this really is, you could say, the best approach that we could take, but if it's the only approach that it's possible for us to take, then there's no real sense of saying one approach is good or one is bad, because at the end of the day, I think it's the only opportunity that we have. So therefore, it's the best opportunity, the best method to use.
That didn't chevel azo nubani go de song. Nuba chik de karasana. Ya sosugi spirit samna sosugi samdi bade chik chirugi the kuryu da na singi tak mida karina di be overwhelmed chache. Bade chik di unguru chache. Susula rangsu mewachi. Susulia tempo mewachi. Dinde chavina and the sungyub chesa the kalakawsha charo. Bade di shugi ba tianra rusha. Chesang azulia rangsu. To be Nubaji Godola. Tana Sing Azuya, Jizo Telia, Sosugi, Soages Ku, the Jizo Tinalaya, Nerang Jizo Tela, dead to a young so separate my imba, Sosuji, Jibo, so I get the Sorama, Tele and dead to Bajita, Ted a Nyamdor Dro to Bajiki. The Nijig Nubaji, go Yeroch. The Indus the Azu Nubani Yevatone, and Jisu. Rishung Sungub Chachi, Yan Ted and Nyamdo, G. Suzu Dakar, Mission at the Nyamdon Drawny. Daji, Kobajatovati on Tomatos.
Lasso. So to do this skillfully, to preserve our Tibetan culture while being in the 21st century and while living in these different environments, I think we need two different abilities. The first is the ability to hold our own ground as a person. Sometimes what happens is that the influences of our environment are so strong that we kind of lose our own identity and it just dissolves into that environment. So we kind of lose our own ground. So to avoid that, we should have the ability of holding our own ground, remembering who we are, remembering our unique identity and holding that. But at the same time, then the second ability is, even while we hold our own ground and hold our own identity, we should be able to reach out to others and communicate with others. We shouldn't take this goal of holding our own ground as an invitation to cut ourselves off from the rest of society. We should be open to the rest of society, be willing to make connections, be willing to interact. So I think those two abilities are very important to help us take steps that will move us forward.
That medium sized original the paper the song bit the can't you. The do that song shoes get the Tamuki shared Neji. That G. A casual Chawan jeans at June. Chawan is the middle, Sanga gives Jazza Jidang at the Himalaya Mida Peba Sanga Yad and Agoroshi. The average to the excite. I would do it. Himalaya Himalaya Lumba
Lasso.
Timena G. Kansas to
Lasso.
that 100 China, Kusu, the Lord de Borishaman.
Lasso.
Fairly lay in the main Himalaya lay you to me some of the Diana the Chigan will the Sanga Giant is a day on Kansas to yeah. That means oh, go to the chamber. That is the judgment show. Sanga Kazi Javana, she like you some other.
Lasso.
That under young guys have the Shirak of choose.
Lasso.
Got some rolia. And yeah, Kasre need have a count some rolia. Kasri Simgurdan, Zesimba. And I think I have number gave Mindin Ruchi. And to the council showing.
Lasso. The last time I visited Germany, we were in a room that was quite a lot smaller than this one. This, I would say, is a large room, and the room we had last time was a medium-sized room. And because of that, it was very full and very crowded. And they had made plans for a personal blessing for everyone at the end, but the crowd was too big, so it didn't happen. People were kind of rushing the stage a little bit, and it was a little bit of an uncomfortable situation. And in general, I enjoy when Tibetan people make big crowds, especially in the Himalayan region. It's just a natural thing that happens. It's something that Tibetans do, and it's great if Tibetan people are making a crowd. But in a foreign country, it feels a little weird. Then I think to myself, wow, am I in a foreign country, or am I back in the Himalayan region? So there's something a little bit uncomfortable about that. But today we have such a big room, then no matter how much of a crowd you make, I don't think it'll be a problem. So in closing, I'd like to say once again that I'm very happy to be with you, and thank you for coming, and thank you for having me. And I'd like to express that from the bottom of my heart, I care about you, I have great concern and love for you, and I continue to make prayers and aspirations for increasing virtue and happiness for all of you.